Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Everyone, to today's episode of The Bend. I'm your host, Debbie Boone, and today I am so pleased to have Dr. Bob Murtaugh with me. Bob is the Chief Professional Relations Officer at Thrive Pet Healthcare, and he is also a candidate for the President-Elect for the AVMA for 2023. He is a diplomate of the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine. He is a veterinary specialist, educator, and consultant. And he is a graduate of the Ohio State and the University of Minnesota College of Veterinary Medicine, and worked at the Los Angeles Veterinary Medical Group as a rotating internship. So he's got all kinds of interesting background, and that's not even touching the surface of it. So, Mert, thanks for being here. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. Great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
So let's talk a little bit about, the origin story. Were you one of those, I always want to be a vet kids, or did you get into it in an odd way?
Yeah, no, I was the black sheep in the medical group in my family. All of us, including my father, were physicians before me. So I started working for a veterinarian when I was 15, as many of us have or did, and kind of caught the bug and went a different direction. Always knew I wanted to sort of focus on science and the health industry. Went down the veterinary path because of the mentorship and opportunities that I had early in my developmental life. So shall you say?
I think that was my first experience in a veterinary hospital. I volunteered for my vet, a group of 3, and I will never forget answering the phone one day. And you got to figure, I'm 15 years old, right? And this woman says, my dogs are tied and one's walking in one direction and one's walking the other. What do I need to do? And I was there with a veterinary student, and we were laughing so hard we couldn't answer the woman. I mean, the veterinary student took over, obviously, from me, but it stuck in my mind. And that was one of my first veterinary experiences, that and the fact that they had me step into the OR when they were removing a huge mammary mass from this tiny little poodle. And they said, if you can make it through this, you might make it through vet school. So they were seeing if I was going to pass out or not. And I made it. So apparently, 30 some years later, I was still watching surgeries every morning when I was drinking my first cup of coffee. So it's all good. Vet school, walked in. I mean, obviously got through school, advanced degrees. Tell me, did life throw you some curveballs along the way?
Yeah, I've been, largely blessed, I think, but I've had a few situations that have given me pause or caused me to kind of change direction, and one door closes and another one opens. I was thinking about that prior to our conversation today, and I think probably the first meaningful one for me was I had sailed along in my career, and I was a faculty member at Tufts University for 15 years, and sort of tracking. I thought I was going to be a department chair and a dean, and kind of go up that path as a career path, and encountered some difficulties both personally and professionally with colleagues at Tufts, and was passed over for a department chair opportunity that opened up, and that sort of gave me pause to sort of think about what do I want to do next, or what should I do next, and ended up at the Dove Lewis Emergency Animal Hospital, all the way across country from Boston, Massachusetts to Portland, Oregon, and got a little taste of the nonprofit sector in our profession, and some really great people and programs, and that's sort of when you're hit with an unexpected adverse event, whether it's professionally or personally, a lot of times it's how you pick yourself up and look for that next opportunity that makes a difference. So I think resiliency and positivity paid off. And, that was probably my first encounter with some at least professional difficulties. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Dove Lewis is an amazing place. And when I was in Portland, if I had thought, I probably would have made a trip over there just to see it. But I've always, ever since they came out with On the Floor at Dove and those training modules, I've always been really impressed with the training and all those classes. I mean, I think they're wonderful. And really it started out, I mean, comparatively cheap. I don't know what it is now, but it was so inexpensive, and you train a lot of people for what they were offering there, and excellent training, not just,
right.
Really excellent training. Off this academic path, looking back on that, I've done a little work in the academic sector, and it makes me want to pull my hair out. Tell me, did you feel like when it was like a completely different world when you got out and you started working at Dove Lewis?
Well, yeah, it was. Tufts at that point was a fairly large institution with some fairly rigorous or academic sort of approaches to things, and Dove Lewis was sort of young and nimble, so there was definitely different characteristics to those two organizations. I think when I joined the faculty at Tufts, that was kind of a young and nimble university. It had only graduated its first class just prior to my joining. So I felt like I was in an entrepreneurial environment, even though it was academic, and had a lot of opportunities related to that. But as things grow and scale, sometimes what you think it is isn't what it turns out to be.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot with veterinary hospitals too, as they put systems in place that worked when they were young and nimble, and then those systems become set in stone and they don't work anymore, but we still keep working with them. I find that a lot in some of my work, and so I could definitely see it working in academia, because the wheels do grind slowly. They are so slowly sometimes.
Yeah, that's
movement.
I still have a lot of friends and colleagues at Tufts, and fond memories for the most part. And so I think, but you're right. I mean, any large institution or large independent hospital is going to have a bureaucracy about it that makes it difficult to pivot or change or move, and we tend to hold on to things longer than we should. So, that's a very good point.
I think it may be one of the great advantages of being an independent practice, is that you are a little sunfish sailboat and you are not the Titanic. And if you need to make a change and pivot, you can do that on a dime, and you don't have to get 700 hospitals to move in the same direction. So there is that advantage. We might not have many advantages as independent, but that is definitely an advantage out there.
Yeah, but even saying so, I think a lot of times when you're an independent or a single operator, I think you have to be careful about falling into the trap of it works for me. Is it really the best that you can be, or the best that you can do for your team or your client, whoever that may be? So.
Absolutely true. And you talked about kind of making this change and the resilience of it. And this is really the point of this podcast, is because I felt like there was so much fear happening during the middle of the pandemic, and especially with younger people who had not faced anything this tough before. And the older you get, the more life kind of throws these things at you, and you make your way through them, and then you kind of go, oh, you know what, this is just another thing, we'll get through. But talk a little bit about like overcoming the fear of change and overcoming those decisions that make us move forward, put that next foot down, rather than kind of cowering in the corner in tears.
Yeah, I mean, I think all we have really is today and tomorrow. Well, today for sure, and tomorrow probably. And I think if you're in a situation that's not comfortable or not satisfying, then I think it behooves you to at least check out the possibilities, whether it's career or personal life or family issues. I think I've always been a positive, glass half full kind of guy, and I think if you look, you'll find the opportunities and probably move a little closer to happiness or satisfaction than you would if you're just woe is me and how could this happen, and it's take control. You have the ability to put yourself in a different position or put yourself in a different place.
What do you think is your biggest career mistake looking back?
I think the same thing that we've been talking about is, maybe I could have done a better job maybe of handling myself both personally and professionally in that situation that I was in at the end of my academic career, if you will. I think it's important to reflect on experiences and to learn from those in a go forward fashion. Evaluated experience is good. Just having experiences is not so rewarding or beneficial. So I think anytime you're faced with either adversity or success, I think it's important to reflect on what your contribution to that was, and also make sure that if it's a success situation that you acknowledge and reward those individuals that helped you, because nobody gets there by themselves.
Yeah, the perfect segue to my next question is the value of networking with others to get you in, or have those opportunities. I guess that is, how do you feel about networking? I know I've talked to several people and go, oh, networking makes me very uncomfortable. But for me, it's, I have a fascination with people, and I just like to learn about people. But then by knowing those people, opportunities show up. Do you feel that you are an expert networker?
Yeah, whenever I take those personality profiles or those sort of tools that tell you about yourself, I'm always the relational guy, the person that cares about others, servant leader, always interested in building people up and supporting them. So I agree with you. I think generally when you give, you get. And in my experience, it's been nothing but great. All the relationships that I've developed lead to more opportunities. I'm retiring from the day job at the end of the year, and we had sort of a group of people that were in our support office in Austin. I probably won't see some of them before I retire. And so we had a little cake and celebration last week, and one of them got up and said, there's what's the similarity between Mert and Kevin Bacon, and it's 1 degree of separation, or whatever it is. So I relish that and I cherish that, because I think the only thing that we really leave behind in this world, I think, is the effect that we've had on others and how they may then pay that forward. And so that's a pretty good legacy.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think if you look back on your life and you've done some good in the world, left it a little bit better than you found it, then you've lived a good life, and you've been, it's happiness too, because if you can do good for other people, it makes you feel good. And I think that's one of the things I always remember seeing Michael J. Fox talk at VMX. It's a keynote, and he stumbled up the stairs and he was hanging onto the podium and his knuckles were bleeding, and he, had the Parkinson's tremors, and he said, I don't feel sorry for myself. He said, if you ever feel sorry for yourself, just go out and do something good for somebody else, and then you won't feel bad anymore. So I thought, yeah, that's it. That is it. So get out of your own head. I I do want to ask you something, because as you're working to be elected the AVMA president, and we are having a lot of talk about, oh, so many things in vet med. Tell me how you feel the future of veterinary medicine is going to play out.
Well, again, I'm a positive kind of guy. I mean, I think that you know, we're faced with challenges that are only due to the fact that we have tons of opportunities and a role to play. And so I think that as a profession, we need to come together on some key issues. I think we're seeing traction on a lot of those these days, and I'm hopeful that over the next several years that we'll find our way and come out the other end better than we are today. I'm quite confident of that.
Epicure Pharma, we produce non-commercially available products following manufacturing guidelines. These products include tacrolimus eye drops, gabapentin tablets, buprenorphine injection, just to name a few. There's been numerous studies done on traditional compounded products such as Lumustine coming from numerous pharmacies. And every one of these studies show great variations in the potency. So as a 503B outsourcing facility, we must follow the FDA guidelines for manufacturing drugs. These are the same guidelines that commercially available products must follow. So that brings a higher standard, a higher quality level to these products. These products are necessary on the animal health side, needed more so than on the human side. At Epicure Pharma, we feel proud that we're bringing this higher quality of product to the veterinary community.
I have a lot of concern that we are talking a lot about all the negative and not enough about the positive.
Yeah, I have that conversation a lot with people. You know, I think, and I've tried to make that point a little bit in some of my recent postings, but I think we're a blessed profession. I mean, we deal with, it's not always puppies and kittens and rainbows, but a lot of the time it is. And we help people and we make a difference every day. And I encourage people to celebrate those moments. I think, there's tough days and there's short staffing and there's euthanasia and all that stuff that piles on us, and I've been there. I know that, but at the same time, if we take a moment to assess every day, there might be one of those scenarios, and there might be 10 of the positive opportunities to celebrate and to relish in. So,
yeah, and I realize that the public is, well, let's call them, they're very fractious at this point in the game. And people are dealing with a lot of stuff, but I also know that we are tired too. And when you have exhausted people on both sides of that exam table, sometimes the communication fails. And obviously, I spent a great deal of my time as a communication coach and talking about those things, but I feel like one of the things that we're missing in this conversation is talking about good communication skills and having difficult conversations with our staff members, having conversations with our clients, even having conversations with ourselves, because a lot of the talk in your head can lead you down a very negative path. And I think that's a challenge, because I know that, just from my own personal experience, I've been training communication for close to 16 years now. And I always will have managers, I always will have some technicians, and I always have the CSRs, but I can't get the veterinarians in my class. How are we going to fix that one?
Well, again, it's self-realization and priorities. I think, I agree with you. I think, my approach is always to lead with empathy. Like, I wonder what it is that made that person act that way, or what experience did they have that could have created this scenario that we're in. And so I think realize that, you can only control your reactions to somebody. You can't control what they do. And so I encourage people not to take stuff personally, but to be open to conflict. I mean, the only, I mean, with an angry client, the only thing you can do is you've already sort of lost them. So you treat it like a diagnostic challenge. The only thing you can do is figure it out and win, so turn it into a little bit of a game, perhaps,
Oh, I love that advice. Because it's the exact same thing I tell people, because it is true. Like, diagnose the situation, diagnose the conversation, diagnose the emotions behind the conversation. And it's not always what it appears to be on the surface. I've had over the years a multitude of people tell me that they can't afford something, but it wasn't that they really couldn't. It was really that they didn't see why they should make the effort for it, because we didn't really talk to them appropriately about the value to them, about what it meant to their lives to have these things done. We have a tendency to focus on the medicine because that's what we know, but the hero of the story is not us. The hero of the story is the client. And we need to change the focus of it. But it goes back to, telling a better story in that exam room. And then you get a lot more yeses than you usually do. So tell us a little bit about what advice you would give somebody. I mean, you're going to be the president of the AVMA. You're going to be a figurehead up there telling the association and its members, guiding us on the path. Tell us what advice you would give if you were starting out your career and looking at vet med or owning a practice, or making big life decisions out there.
Yeah, I think we're blessed as a profession to have so many opportunities, and so many avenues of pursuit that relish the moment, enjoy the day. Every day should be a blessing for you, and we make a difference in so many people's lives. If you're not in the right place, in the right seat today, try something different, and don't be afraid to 40-year career with 6 or 7 different chapters that have all played out well in the end. That will happen for everybody that's new in the profession as well. There'll be opportunities and challenges, and I would encourage entrepreneurship. I think owning a practice and building a team, and you can do it. I mean, veterinarians have done it before. We talk about the struggles with student debt. The quickest way to resolution of that for individuals is you got to take a little bit more risk and build your own hospital and be successful. It's not. I mean, we live in a day and age where you open the door and they will come. And if they have some sage advice, like from the Debbie Boones of the world, they'll be good to go.
Yeah, I agree. And they could listen to some Bob Murtaugh too, when it comes to being relational and empathy with the clients. But I think you're right. I see there's been a little sea change here. I used to see maybe 5 or 6 years ago where new grads were coming out like, oh, I don't want to own a hospital, because they were looking at these practice owners who were working 70-hour work weeks and going, I have no life if I own my own practice. But now I'm seeing a kind of a shift back to where there are a lot of younger veterinarians. I'm working with 2 right now who engage my services a year before they plan on opening the doors, which is, I'm like, hallelujah, because now we don't have to fix it 5 years in when you're up to your elbows in alligators. We've laid a good foundation. We have the groundwork. Everything is done right to start with, and life will be easier, as you go forward, and you'll have a successful hospital. But I see so much creativity in the practice models now. I was looking at something yesterday, and these young veterinarians are actually going to have a wine bar in their practice, and they have a beer and wine license. And I said, well, why not? You know, if they plan on having people wait for a while, maybe they'll be happier clients, or they'll say yes more often. I don't know. But it's about your brand, and building that brand and focusing on the client that you want to come in your door, because that, if you find that niche, you know, those are the people who want what you're offering, then everybody's gonna be happy. The client will be in their right place, and they'll be comfortable with you, and you'll have the right client that's, you know, makes your life easier too. So very much, I think that maybe years of VBMA is paying off for us. You know, people do realize that they need that business background. But you're right, the way out of debt is to own a practice and manage it well. That is the truth. So tell us a fun fact about you. Do you have a secret talent, a favorite song, something people might be surprised to know about you?
I wasn't ready for that one. Give me any opportunity to reflect there. I'm practicing to be a beekeeper, setting up to have my hives going next spring. I like to cook. At the end of the day, I'll cook dinner for the family and my lovely wife. Find that to be sort of a time for reflection and quiet and creativity. Maybe fun facts for somebody. I don't know.
Now, I know your wife is also a veterinarian, and she is a horsewoman. Are you a horse person too?
I can do okay on them, but I'm not world champion like she is. But
yeah, Jill has gone beyond regular horsewoman to like top of the mark here.
Super horsewoman. Yeah, I'm more like the stable guy, and when the horses see me, they see a big carrot coming their way.
Oh, I was going to say maybe you know how to use a pitchfork.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Expert at that.
An expert at pitchforks. That could come
save the shaving at all costs. No
exactly right. And they're getting more and more expensive too. So Mert, any final words of wisdom you want to share? Anything you'd like to say about, yourself or what you're doing, or your thoughts about, being the candidate for AVMA president? I think opportunity to share your thoughts and platform.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, we face a lot of challenges as a profession, as we've talked about here so far today. And I think, the workforce shortage is a big issue for me, and how are we going to fill that gap? And I mean, the curves are only continuing to spread apart between demand and supply. And so I think we need to be creative. We talked about, how coming together as a profession. So I think academia, organized veterinary medicine, the private sector need to work together to find solutions. I consider that the number one issue. I'm big on access to care. I think everybody that owns a pet should have the basics, at least for that pet. And again, it's another opportunity for us to come together, not only as a profession, but as a country. If you think about, the pet becomes now part of the family, and social service organizations and human health, it all wraps together, and governmental funding for people to have at least the basics of care for their pets. I think those are some of the things that interest and excite me about where we should be going and what we should be focused on. So appreciate the opportunity to share that here today.
I love the access to care, and looking back, I mean, I started working in a veterinary hospital in 1985. So the doctors were creative of necessity. And I know that you have certainly been trained to absolutely the highest standard of medicine, but sometimes simple works. And we have to be cognizant of what people can afford and to do help and no harm.
Meet them where they are.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and not feel bad about it too. I think maybe there's some fear there.
The only thing that's worse than some care is no care.
It's no care. Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, I can remember very well, this is really a long time ago, but one of my, is a new client we'd never seen before, came in with a puppy with parvo, mild case, just getting started, and they had zero. And so I think my practice owner sent them home and said, every 2 hours, feed this dog chicken broth, keep it hydrated. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, it's back in for some vaccines and it's okay. I mean, and I thought this today, if we didn't put it in the hospital, put it on IV fluids, just sock the medicine to it, it would be considered almost malpractice. But it lived and it thrived and it was okay. So I think there's a spectrum of care there, and you should offer people your best, but then be practical and help them when that doesn't work out or they cannot possibly do that, to do something. And I'm speaking as a pet owner and not a veterinarian. And of course, I am a medicine snob because I know too much, right? So I expect that gold standard of care and I expect to pay for it, but I also am a realist, and I've been working with the public since I was a small child. And I know that there are people who care deeply about their animals and want to take good care of them. And we need to figure out how to make it happen. Even if we have to do, every Friday they get paid and we do a little bit on Friday, every Friday for a month, then we need to do that. So.
Yep. I agree.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing to be on, and I appreciate your time. And tell your horsewoman par excellence best of luck in her this 8 days out for the world show. Quarter horse, brilliant rider, and I look forward to seeing you up there as the president of the AVMA.
I appreciate your support, Debbie. Thanks. We'll see but we'll give it our best shot. So.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. And if you are so inclined, please vote for, or if you're a delegate, because there's only 70 people who can vote for Bob. But I think, we have a lot of work to do in vet med, and having someone who has been through all areas of veterinary medicine, from academia to practice, is somebody with a good set of eyes on all the different areas that we need help. And we have a wonderful profession. I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. And I'm thankful every day that I get to spend it with the people in this community. So thank you very much again for listening to The Bend.